This is a Dragon Blazer production.
This is Unsolved Comedy.
Hello guys, and welcome back to Unsolved Comedies. As always, I am your host, Kizea, and we've always got my co-host,
Stefan.
Okay. Never heard him say his name like that ever. I've known this guy for a little bit over like a year at this point, and never heard him say his name that way, but we're rolling with it. We'll also have somebody else pop in at some point. I don't know where he is, but he'll pop in, I'm sure. So, today's case is going to hit a little bit close to home for some people. And by some people, I mean me. If you didn't realize, probably not, because you guys have never probably seen a picture of me. I'm black, well, biracial, but still, in that general, this case could potentially be a hate crime, which is why I'm bringing that up, because
Isn't every case a hate crime where murder is involved?
I don't know. I feel like hate crime is a very specific type of crime. Like, yes, you have to hate somebody to kill them, but killing your daughter, i.e. Casey Anthony, is different from Elijah McClain being killed by cops just because he was black and quote-unquote looked suspicious. Just saying. That's the difference. So the name of this case is, the name of the episode for this case is called No Ride Home. The case is covering the murder of Alonzo Brooks. What did you think of the coverage of the case?
It was another interesting case. Some weird developments. Find it odd that the police do not find a body, but a group of random people, family members and friends, do find it, but we'll get into that.
Yeah. This case was super weird in the process that I had to take preparing for this case. I watched this case, we're recording at 3 a.m., and I watched this case originally at about 10 o'clock earlier this evening. And I, immediately after I watched the case, was beginning to do research on the case. And from what I could find, all of the information that this case has, like everything, is already out there. It's in the Unsolved Mysteries episode specifically. There's nothing that we didn't see.
Well, there's one big thing, but it wasn't something...
It's not crucial to the investigation. It's not a big part of the case. It's a part of the case that's being continued now.
His body is being exhumed.
Which means that the police fucked up the first time.
Oh, you don't say.
This case is also a little bit different because there's no suspect.
Yeah, no, they don't really have a specific suspect at all. I mean,
of course, if you watched the episode...
The suspect is racist.
Yeah, literally. If you watch the episode, there's a couple of, weird things, like his friends left him at the party, or he got into an argument with some guy, or he potentially was with some girl, but nothing that, sticks. The family doesn't suspect the friends. They're a little bit pissed off that they left him by himself. But other than that, it's not like they suspect that any of the friends had anything to do with it. They don't, it's not your average case. The last few cases that we've done, we've pretty much been able to say, this is the person that we think did it, allegedly, and this is what we think happened.
Yeah, so far, every single one of these cases have had a likely suspect.
Yeah. So for this case to not have any suspects, not even any suspects that the police looked into, this case ran dry really fast. And I assume that that's because of poor police work. And that's honestly me being very optimistic.
You say poor police work. I say possibly racist police.
That's what I was thinking. That's why I said poor police work was me being very optimistic. But let's touch on the fact that we do have family members and witnesses in this case. We have, in fact, a rather long list of family and witnesses. So the first person that we meet is his mother. Her name is Maria Ramirez. We then meet his sisters, Demetria and Cindy. And then we meet his third sister, Felicia, and his brother, Billy. He was the youngest of 5 children. We also meet his friends that went to the party with him. A Justin Sprague, a Daniel Fune, and a Tyler Bogard. So that's our main cast of people as far as like the initial story, like the backstory. Apparently, Justin, Daniel, and Tyler were very close to Alonzo. Very close. They knew him very well. I believe one of them said that he played football with him, and that's how he found out that he was an intense person. We also find out that his uncle Edward was present on the day of the search, which we'll get into in a little bit, and his friend Rodney English had some hand in helping to find the body as well. So the first person that we hear from is Maria Ramirez. Seems like a typical grieving mother, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, she was very sad. She was grieving. Yes, as one would say.
Well, okay. I assume that's where the joke was. But like, she wears his jacket. She mentions that he was the youngest. She keeps his pictures out. She talks about how when he was younger, he liked karate, he liked football, he liked basketball. She knew her son very well, is what I'm gathering. And we also find out from his sister that he was a very fun, loving, lively person, but also incredibly shy. She said that he's very, very shy. Alonzo was born and grew up in... Yes?
Didn't his friend also say he was shy at the party? But he was very outspoken.
Yeah. That's something else that we'll talk about. It's so weird. Sorry. Our extra guest finally showed up.
Mysterious special guest strikes again.
Sure. But we find out that he was extremely shy. He was born in Topeka, if I'm not wrong. Yes?
Yes.
And at some point he moved with his mother to Gardner in Kansas. These are both in Kansas, if you didn't gather from the Topeka comment. Supposedly, he went to a party on the night of April 3rd. And he told his mother he was going to a party. When she asked about the party, he was like, I don't really know, some guy's going off into the service, so we're going to a party. For him, I guess, is the way that it was supposed to come across. And that's where the 3 friends come in. Justin, Daniel, and Tyler were all there that night. But from what I understand, there were other friends there as well.
They said there were about 8 people that were from their town.
That were from their group. 6 to 8, yes. 6 to 8 in the official, like in their...
But his actual friend group was just 3 others.
Yes. So they get to the party. It's a 43-mile drive, about an hour, maybe even a little bit more, I believe is what Justin said. And they go to La Sing. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that that's how we say that.
You don't want to pronounce the possible racist town properly?
I'm not that worried about it. Full disclosure. It was a farmhouse party, and the farmhouse was by a creek. When you actually look at the overhead view that they give you in Unsolved Mysteries, the house is in the middle. Off to the right is fields. There's a big yard to the left, and then towards the edge of the yard is a creek. And the creek apparently goes on for quite a length. They said that Zoe was very outspoken that night. In fact, the first interaction that they had with anybody at the party was Zoe yelling at everybody at the party, "Who wants a beer?" Which was apparently out of character for him. They mentioned that he seemed a lot more outgoing that night. But we also find out from his mother at the same time that his ankle was hurt that night. So he probably wasn't doing a whole lot of dancing or anything crazy because he was injured. Don't know how he got injured. His ankle was just hurt.
Yeah, they mentioned he had a limp.
Yes. At some point, I guess Alonzo was drinking and playing games and just having a grand old time at this party. At some point, his friends go off to do their own thing, which is fine.
Well, there was a interaction.
Well, yes, I was getting to that. His friends go off to do their own thing, and they turn around and find Alonzo arguing with some guy. Don't know who this guy is. We just hear him arguing with Alonzo, and on top of that, I don't know if this is something that actually one of the three friends mentioned, or if this is just something that the media put out there, because the media tends to do that, but apparently the N-word was thrown around a couple of times.
Yeah, the friends I don't think ever mentioned it.
No, they don't. It could have been something that the media...
other people at the party mentioned that racial
well, that's the
slurs
thing.
were used.
The only witnesses that they have are the three friends. Nobody else came forward. They have been struggling with that for a long time. That's why they put so much effort and time. Like the FBI, I know that you made a comment that this case was the most reacted to case on the new Unsolved Mysteries lineup. And that's because don't have a whole lot of faith in humanity. There's $100,000 worth of a reward for any information on Alonzo.
So we're hoping that someone is like, hate black people, want money. Hate black people, want money.
That's what we're hoping for.
Hopefully money overcomes their hatred for black people.
Right.
/ Mexicans.
Yes, he was of Mexican and black descent, which is why, and he was the only person of color there, according to his three friends.
But if you look at him, I mean, you don't really notice.
You don't really get
Mexican.
the Hispanic. You get the, and that's no offense to him. I'm the
just,
same way. You don't get the Greek when you look at me. You get the black. I just have that coloring. He had that coloring. In fact, he had a lot of features that I assume would come from his black side of the family, because I've noticed some similar features in other people, like in his sisters and things like that.
Black is way more dominant in his looks. Yes.
Yes. And we're not, that's not, that sounds racist. I swear to God, this is not a racist episode. It's just unfortunately because it's a hate crime, we have to state the obvious.
Can't avoid the fact that there's possible a racial motivator. So it is kind of a racist episode because we watched an episode that had to deal with possible racism.
Yes.
But that's not confirmed. Unfortunately, that's speculation.
Yes.
It's just...
Now, I will put out there, I'm going to be completely honest with you. Kansas and Missouri are right next to each other. I have been to both states, and I have had one hell of an experience in Missouri that makes me feel like this case is not that far off. It is what it is. When you're in the middle of BFE in those states, no, it's not predominantly racist in, like, the big cities, but we were driving through Missouri when I moved out across the country, and we were stopped because my uncle at the time was the only white person with us. It was his wife, who's black, me, my sister, my mom, and my grandma, and we're all black. So these white guys, we got out to use the bathroom, and these white truckers came and were like talking to my uncle and calling him names and asking him what he was doing, spending time with all these N-words, and he got really upset. And he came into the gas station and was like, you guys need to get in your car and leave. And they tried to block us in, like we were in genuine danger. So if BFE in Kansas is anything like BFE in Missouri, I 100% believe that this had racial motivators.
Oh, I'm not arguing it. I'm just saying that there is no actual proof to believe that it was. It could be as simple as he started flirting with the wrong girl, and the girl's boyfriend was there, and
it could be anything. Unfortunately, racism is a very difficult crime to prove. I mean, you can't criminalize thought, but it's very difficult to prove that kind of thing. So Alonzo,
all we know is that he was, from what everybody said, the only black man.
The only person of color in the whole party.
Yeah. And the only person of color happened to die at that party.
Okay, so his first friend leaves at about 10 o'clock, and I believe it was Daniel. And Daniel said that he had to get home. He had things to do the next day. He couldn't stay up all night. Yes, I know. I'm getting there. That one left, and then 45 minutes later, the other one left. I'm breaking it up. So the first friend left at about 10. Said he had stuff to do. He couldn't stay out all night. Left him there with two of his other friends. The next person to go home was Tyler. That was about 45 minutes later. Tyler
he was the one that went for cigarettes.
No, Justin's the one that went for cigarettes.
So Justin was the last one to leave?
Yes, Justin.
I was thinking there was someone else still there.
No. Well, there is. We'll get there. Justin is the one that Alonzo rode to the party with and was the guy that he was supposed to ride home with.
Okay.
Tyler leaves 45 minutes after Daniel leaves at about 11 o'clock, he says. And then at some point, Justin runs out of cigarettes. And him and Alonzo both smoke, so he goes to get a cigarette from Alonzo. Alonzo's completely out.
Right.
So Justin goes, hey, I'm going to go get some cigarettes. And Alonzo's like, cool, get me a pack, and gives him some money to get a pack of cigarettes. Justin claims, and this is not verified, but nobody seems to question it.
He took a right instead of a left.
Yes, he took a right instead of a left and got lost about 30 minutes north of where they actually were. So he drove for another 15 miles before he found a place to turn around. His car got stuck. Like, this guy just had a really hard time. And if you've ever been out on gravel roads in the middle of BFE, it's kind of a pain in the ass. So I'm not going to call him a liar because I've gotten my car stuck in gravel roads before.
It sounds like Alonzo had a harder time.
Well, death is a preferable option than taxes.
Jesus Christ. Okay. No, but Justin had a hard time. He went to go get cigarettes and completely got lost and got stuck. Like, you know how it is. Where we live in Ohio, there is a fuck ton of gravel roads and BFE, and you get stuck, and it's a pain.
I wrecked a car in a barn.
Literally, that shit happens. That should also tell you a lot about where we live, that my boyfriend crashed his car into a barn. Okay.
Accident? Well, actually, the truck getting T-boned.
That wasn't your fault, though.
Yeah.
So, Justin gets lost, and he calls his friend Adam, and he's like, yo, get a hold of Alonzo. I'm lost. I have no clue where I am, and I have no clue how to get back. I'm trying to get back. And remember, this happened in 2004, before there was Siri and cell phones and GPS.
I mean, GPS was a thing, I believe, in 2004, but it wasn't widely available for everyone. It wasn't on everybody's phone.
And you gotta remember this, like, the oldest person there is Alonzo. Alonzo's 23. All of his friends are younger.
A lot of underage drinking, apparently.
Yeah.
16 to 21 was the age group.
If you don't count Alonzo, yes. Alonzo was 23. But, so... he calls Adam and he's like, yo, I'm lost. I don't know where I am. It's fucked situation. And he said that he hears Alonzo talking shit in the background. And he's like, you're never going to make it back. I'm just going to find another ride home.
I thought he said he had another ride home with someone else.
Justin asked Adam, who is the friend that he called, to make sure that Alonzo got home. At this point, the story that we have, Adam is our best suspect. And that's because Adam is potentially the last person to see Alonzo alive.
Well, last person within his friend group.
Yes. So Adam supposedly was supposed to take Alonzo home, and that never happened.
Now, did they ever say anything? Did Adam ever say what happened, where he left? When he left?
So Maria gets a call the next day, and somebody's trying to find Alonzo.
So they just kind of gloss over that.
No. They'll talk about it, but I'm trying to get to the point in the story where they talk about it. And Maria freaks out because, according to her, and according to all of his friends, Justin, Tyler, and Daniel, he never stays anywhere but his house. Very rarely. And so, this was odd for him not to come home. It was extremely odd. So his mom starts calling all of his friends, and this is when we start to hear the stories from his friends. Justin says that he went home because Adam agreed to take Alonzo home. And according to Adam, now we never hear from Adam. Adam has not come forward. He is not talking to Unsolved Mysteries. We never see him. So Adam supposedly was supposed to take Alonzo home, but according to Adam, they got lost in translation and they missed each other, and he thought Alonzo had already gone home. I don't know who he thought he went home with, and that's why I say at this point Adam is our best suspect, because he was supposed to take Alonzo home and doesn't really have a good reason as to why he didn't take him home.
Yeah, and it's really, really hard to find a black man in this all-white redneck town.
I mean,
party.
Honestly,
this isn't Where's Waldo.
It is, but it's a really easy version of Where's Waldo. I mean, it's like the same thing that we were playing with your cat when he went missing. Where's Waldo? He's the only gray thing running around town.
That's a little different.
I'm just saying, it's like, there's no other gray cats in the neighborhood, so if we saw a gray cat, we knew it was yours. There's no other black people in this neighborhood, so if you see a black person running around, you should assume it's Alonzo and probably pick him up. You get where I'm going?
I already made the joke.
But
a black cat crossed my path on my way home today.
Oh, Jesus, you brought the bad juju here.
I almost picked up 2 kitties tonight.
I would have been okay with that. Why don't you bring them home to me?
I even have sausage sticks ready to try and... I saw this really cute baby tabby. It was all orange. It looked like a Garfield.
This is where this podcast is going, cats.
Mysterious stranger has arrived.
Thank you. So, Alonzo's mother calls Alonzo's best friend, his name is Rodney English, I believe. And she calls Rodney and she's like, hey, Alonzo's not home. Do you want to come and help us look for him? Rodney's like, yeah, sure. So he drives from Topeka to Gardner. He still lives in Topeka. He drives to where Alonzo lived. So that's already a lengthy drive. And then he drives with Justin another 43 miles to Lansing to see where this party happened. And he said that he was really confused as to why they left without their friend. But, you know, weirder things have happened. People leave their friends all the time. They're like, hey, I just assumed that you went home with somebody else. I just assumed that you had already left. I just assumed that this happened. I just assumed that happened. Like, it's not the weirdest thing to ever happen for somebody to leave their friend at a party. Does that mean that their friends, like, did the right thing and made the right decision? No, not by a long shot, but I'm not saying it's weird. It doesn't make me suspicious of them that they left him at this party by themselves. They say that they started walking the area. They walk along the creek first. Don't find anything along the creek. They look inside the house and they don't see anything. They don't see Alonzo in the house. So they begin to walk along the right side of the house up against the road and towards the fields. Rodney crosses the street to look at the fields and finds his hat and his boots. One boot is a significant distance from the other, but Alonzo's hat and boots are found on the side of the road. That's the first thing that they find. And I believe that this is found on the 4th, which is the day that they officially consider him missing. The family considers him missing. One thing that we do hear from Justin and Daniel, and probably Tyler as well, I just don't remember what he said, is that Lansing is a predominantly white town and racism is a common thing there. From what I've read up on, it's not a common thing anymore, but at the time in 2004, 10 years ago, if not more than 10 years ago, 16 years ago at this point, probably a lot more common, to be completely fair. Justin takes all of the blame. He said that he should have stayed with him. He feels horrible that he didn't stay, and Justin was my main suspect up until I heard him take complete blame. And I saw him cry over the loss of his friend. And then I was like, I don't think you did this.
I mean, people can fake cry.
I mean, yeah, but you saw the same person that I saw.
I don't think it was Justin either. However, people can.
People can. I just don't think that that was what happened.
The heart in his eyes definitely told a story. And
I don't think he did it.
That's one thing, is growing that human connection with anybody is deep. And to lose anybody close,
it's a pretty serious thing.
Who was the one that came up with the party idea? And why?
I don't remember exactly. They said that within their friend group, they had just heard about this party that was happening in Lansing, and
I mean,
they kind of
weird.
It is weird.
Heard about a party an hour away.
Well, to be completely fair, 2004.
Correct?
He's right. 2004.
MySpace was still a thing.
Literally. So from what I understand,
heard about it in a roundabout way.
Right. From what I understand, Justin said that they heard about this party for some guy that was going into the service. I don't know if they knew the guy. Don't know. But that's what Justin said happened. Justin said that they heard about this party and it had something to do with some guy going to the service, which matches up completely with what Alonzo told his mother. He told his mother the same thing, that it had something to do with some guy going into the service. They just heard about it. They thought they would go.
Thought it was weird.
It's storming outside.
This is also something that I would like to bring up. When Marie Ramirez calls the police or goes to the police,
you didn't really get too much into the finding the shoes.
Well, I mean, I really don't know. I don't know exactly how to go any deeper into that. It's fucking weird that his shoes were found. But this whole fucking case is weird because later we'll talk about his body being found.
Shoes strung up on a clothesline.
It wasn't.
That they were just in the field.
One was on this, like, let's say one was at the bar. We have a little island in our kitchen. One was at the island. And the other one was probably at Lyle's house. Like, that's how far away the shoes were. They weren't strung up. They were on the ground.
Well, they suggested that possibly someone... Exactly why I wanted to bring up the shoes is because the most likely scenario in my eyes, they mentioned possibly someone throwing his shoes.
Yeah, but why would
out
somebody
of a
throw
moving
the
car.
shoe?
My thought was they a group of men had him, was dragging him, and his shoes fell off. It wouldn't have
to be a group. So
No. They said that it would have to be a group. We see his friends talk about it, and they say that he was not a small man. We don't find out what his weight and height was.
He was a football player. He was a strong person.
And
he was a strong-willed person.
They said it would have taken, at the very least, it would have taken 3 to 4 men to subdue him. Maybe not to drag him, but to subdue him. It would have taken multiple people.
So here's the thing. Even in subduing, so if somebody's kicking their feet, the edge of a shoe can catch on any little valley. Depending on how he kicked his feet, depending on which shoe dropped first, is saying which side he's being dragged, subdued on.
Yeah.
So
that's what I think. I think he was being dragged and his shoes popped off and his hat popped
honest
off.
to God, I didn't even think about it. I was so focused on the other weird things that come about in this case later that I just didn't even think about it.
I'm a sneakerhead. So, depending on which shoe is dominant, depends on which side is his dominant side.
Whichever foot wasn't injured, irregardless of his dominant side.
Well, that is
whichever
true.
foot
he
wasn't
did
injured.
Have an injury. That is quite correct.
So, we're talking about the police. The police told Maria that she had to wait 48 hours to report her son missing, which is not true. That is completely untrue. You do not have to wait any length of time if your child goes missing to report them missing. There is a law. I don't know if it's in every state, but there is a law called the Johnny Gosch law or something like that, where in the Johnny Gosch case, they forced the family to wait 48 to 36 hours to report their son missing and lost vital time. And after that case, the mother of the missing child got the law changed. So you do not have to wait.
Now, is that law different based on the age? You got to remember this. Yes, this is her son.
Because if I call to report Davy missing, it doesn't matter if he's.
Say my name. I'm a mysterious special guest. Gosh dang.
It's not gonna. It doesn't matter that he's 22 as opposed to 17. You don't have to wait to report somebody missing.
So remember, this also applies to people who have dementia, Alzheimer's. Like, they forget where they are. There was a man who quite recently was lost for 3 days and was within 4 miles of the nursing home he was supposed to be at.
So
I just know I've always heard of the 24 hours. Whatever,
no, you don't have to wait any length of time. It was changed with Noreen Gosch in, I think it was Iowa, was where the case originated, was where Johnny Gosch went missing. And Noreen Gosch, Johnny Gosch's mother, fought at the Supreme Court on the national level for that law to be changed, because she said that if the police had taken her seriously when she called the police at 5:30 in the morning the day her son went missing, they could have gotten so much further, but they made her wait 48 hours. So the Supreme Court changed that law. That was in the 80s, or that was in the 70s or the 80s.
I was going to say, this is 2004.
Let me put this timeline for you. That case took place. Johnny Gosch was one of the first milk carton kids. You know when you look at missing people on milk cartons?
Yeah, I know the missing people.
He's the guy. He's the kid that started that. So that's the timeline we're dealing with. So it definitely would have been in effect in 2004.
Yeah,
so
I mean,
they just gave her shit because they could. They didn't want to do their jobs, which is something that we see a lot of times with missing persons cases. And I'm not bashing cops here. Cops have a very difficult job. But in a lot of missing person cases, how many times do you hear of somebody being missing for 2 days before the cops actually do anything about it?
Well, in this case, I would like to... I believe the philosophers were the NWA. Fuck the police.
Okay. Fuck the police is what we're doing then, I guess.
Okay.
That's how I feel about this case. Fuck the police.
So in this, it's a very confusing...
The police work was shit. I'm not even going to argue with Steven. The police work was fucking terrible. And, like, again, I'm not bashing cops. They have a lot of hard work to do in a day, but they did a really shitty job on this case. They didn't take the family seriously. Literally the next thing I have in my notes is the police did not take the Brooks family seriously. They were trying to tell the police this is out of his character. And the police were like, no, he just got drunk and went walking somewhere.
See,
he doesn't have shoes on. His ankle is injured, and you're trying to tell me that he's drunk walking around somewhere? No, that's not what happened. You just don't want to get off your ass.
I feel like you're giving the police too much credit. I'm saying fuck the police because I believe the police are in on the racism and did not want to find him.
No, I agree with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just also bringing up the point.
I mean, a small backwater town